Committee on Audit come to order. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Killeen,
He's excused.
Commissioner Daub. Here. Commissioner Clark-Holman. Here. Commissioner Kniezek. Chair Basham.
Here.
You have a quorum.
We got a little reverb here, so can you? Next item, Madam Clerk.
Chair's remarks.
I have none.
B, approval of the May 25th, 2022 meeting minutes. Support.
Motion by Commissioner Coleman and support by Commissioner Dobb. All those in favor? All those opposed? Ayes have it. Next item.
D, unfinished business. Communication from Marcella Cora, Wayne County Legislative Auditor General, forwarding a letter from Plant and Moran, the county's independent external auditor, providing a required communication to the Committee on Audit and the county executive on the results of their audit of the county's September 30th, 2021 financial statements and related annual comprehensive financial report.
I'd like to welcome Ms. Cora, her staff, and her guests. And before I do it, also, just as a note, maybe Ms. Cora, if we could take M&B stuff together, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. Ms. Cora, please proceed.
Marcy Cora, Auditor General, and we have Mr. Newsome, the CFO. We get him introduce himself, and Shantika Bullard.
Good morning to the committee, members of the committee. This is Huey Newsome, CFO for Wayne County.
Good morning to the committee. This is Shantika Bullard, the Director of Grants, Contracts, and Compliance Management for the county.
And I also believe we have others from M&B online, if they could introduce themselves for the record.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, Yogesh Kasani, who is the Deputy CFO, was unable to be here in person, but he is on the phone or on the Zoom, as well as Drew Vandergrift, who is the Budget Director, and Graham Smithcourt, who is the Director of Financial Reporting. All played, along with myself and Shantika, played a major role in getting the audit and the single audit finalized for fiscal year 21. Now, thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Yes, sir. What we have before us today, these are the county's external audit findings along with the single audit findings. If you remember at the last meeting, we had Plant Moran here who went through all the findings and the conditions. Though this meeting is primarily to discuss with the auditees what corrective action they have in place to address the findings. You know, something we had talked about, we talked about with you, Chair Basham, was that maybe we could develop a task force between M&B, the Treasurer's Office, other parties, so that we could meet to see what progress we're making to address the findings and then report back to the committee quarterly so that we don't have some of the issues that we had last year with our external audit. So if you are in agreement with that, Mr. Newsome's in agreement with that.
Mr. Newsome agrees with that. It sounds like a great idea.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I've discussed it with key members of my staff, and we are in agreement that that is the correct way to go. What you'll find with the findings of a majority of them can be handled, kind of collectively. And so we feel that the task force should have a comprehensive approach to addressing these findings as opposed to addressing each of them piecemeal.
So what I thought I could do is for the M&B findings, I'll just read the condition of I think there's 5 M&B findings, then they'll address them collectively together, Mr. Newsome. The first one was the county's general ledger and underlying financial records were not reconciled and closed out in a timely manner. There was numerous adjustments that had to be identified in management were instead identified during the audit. That's the first one. The second one is the county lacked appropriate overall monitoring of account balances during the year in order to complete and accurate financial reports that resulted in many auditor proposed journal entries. The third one is just instances where the county was not in compliance with laws and regulation, outstanding checks related to road construction. They're considered abandoned, not escheated. Expenditures exceeded budgeted amounts in certain expenditure groups within the general fund, COVID-19 fund, community justice, capital projects fund, and multiple non-major governmental funds. Original budget for community corrections special revenue fund would have resulted in a deficit, and the fund ended the year in actual deficit, and no budget prepared and approved prior to the start of the fiscal year for billing authority. Number 13 is internal controls were not adequate to ensure that costs charged to the fund were incurred within the prescribed period of performance and adhere to the guidance on allowable uses as prescribed by U.S. Department of Treasury. And number 14, controls in place were not adequate to ensure financial information reported to the treasurer was supported by the books and records. And I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Newsome and his group to discuss the action they plan to take.
Mr. Chair, if I may, so what you'll find, again, there are the small nuances within each one of these findings, but for the most part, the general approach needs to be address our staffing challenges and address our technology challenges. And the reason I believe a task force would be helpful and supportive for us to develop this plan. We need to think about things pre-ERP, post-ERP implementation, right? And so I think because, again, most of the solution is going to fall into those two buckets, staffing and technology. If we have a comprehensive approach, we can not only will we be able to address these findings, but also other potential findings that could come up later as we continue to expand the scope of work that we have, both on the single audit side, which we'll get to in a minute, I believe, and on the financial audit side, as it relates to the increased budget because of ARPA funding.
Questions regarding MMB findings?
Questions relative to MMB findings?
Page 4 of the report. I'm not sure if we have representatives from the treasurer's office online.
From treasurer's office, like to comment?
Ask for the day the findings related to the treasurer's office. Because they're very important that we need to discuss.
There's somebody from the treasurer's office that's here. Interesting that it seems like we get the most pushback from the treasurer's office and they're not here to explain or work with us. So if we have questions, I'm not going to just put this under the rug. I will actually have another meeting with the treasurer's office to go over these issues. Is that fair with the other commissioners?
Now to page 6. This is the finding related to the sheriff's office. I know we have representatives from the sheriff's office online. The condition to this finding was the county did not have procedures in place to ensure that inmate property bank accounts were reconciled to the jail management system. The reconciling items are current and the controls are in place over cash functions. I believe Samaya Harb's online.
Morning, Samaya. Would you like to comment? Muted. Can you unmute yourself, Samaya?
Good morning. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, perfect. Good morning. And through the chair, the jail management system is not a financial system. We've been trying to reconcile the jail management system to the property bank accounts for quite a while right now. And then we met with the vendors and we are in process of amending the contract to include the reports that are needed to be able to reconcile the jail management system to the bank accounts. We were missing the voided checks. Because the jail management system is not a financial system, it didn't have that capability. We do have an amendment that is going to be at public safety today to upgrade our technology through the JMS, and then also to address this recommendation or this condition and to resolve it. As soon as the amendment is approved by commission, we will be able to resolve this issue.
Okay, and what about, does the sheriff's office have a plan like to reduce the number of folks that actually sign these checks?
Yes, well, yes, I was going to speak to that. We already removed all officers as check signers. Right now, only the finance staff sign the checks. We also implemented the issuance of inmate debit cards, so that way we don't need as many checks as we used to issue. That's one. And the other one, the other concern was the access to the blank checks. We purchased safes, and all the blank checks are secured in the safe under lock and key. So all those two were resolved. The only thing that has not been resolved is the escheatment. We cannot escheat anything to the state. The county does not have an escheatment policy, and unless they have an escheatment policy, we ourselves at the sheriff's office cannot escheat anything to the state. So we're going to follow suit with when the county develops an escheating policy.
Any questions from commissioners? Seeing none, please proceed.
7. This is with the Department of Public Services Environment. I think we have a representative here in the audience. They could join us up here and introduce themselves, please.
Chairman, committee
Morning.
members, good morning, everyone. My name is Moina Moore, and I am the Assistant Division Director for DPS Finance. So our finding was related to a lack of reconciliation for our judgment levy fund cash accounts. We spent a considerable, so after the original finding in fiscal year 20, we spent a considerable amount of time working with the Deputy CFO, Yogesh Gasani, and another member of his team at the time to develop a methodology so that we could shore up our cash balances and then develop a process moving forward. So we did successfully get that done. It took a little bit of time for a few different reasons, but we ultimately did confirm the cash balances with the communities, and we did develop a policy to ensure quarterly reconciliation of the cash accounts as well as the accounts receivable.
Any questions or comments from commissioners or?
Just had
Cora?
just one comment I want to. Ms. Moore was formerly with the Office of Auditor General when I started many years ago. She was in the office, so it's nice to see her back here at the county.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Cora, anything else?
Move on to the next page. With Community Development Block Grant, I think we have representatives. Ms. Redmond's here, if she could join us.
Guys, Mr. Carroll is off, and so I'm trying to juggle all the things that need to be dealt with.
We have two findings. Number 11 was the county did not submit the required Section 3 summary report for the program year ended June 30th, 2021. And number 12 was controls were not in place, were not adequate to ensure documentation was available to demonstrate the environmental reviews were performed. Ms. Redmond, could you give us some of the corrective action they plan to put in place?
The correction action and plan is we've lost a couple of employees, which we now are in the process of hiring the employee to work on the environmentals and submit the proper documentation, to submit the reports. We've to improve, our process in ensuring that we avoid these findings in the future.
Agree with the findings, and we have a resolution to move forward, correct?
Yes, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Cora?
Just conclude that this year's audit was probably the most difficult audit I've been involved with in all my time here at the county. I think Mr. Newsom, Ms. Bullard, Mr. Gasani, Mr. Smithcourt, along with Plant Moran, I think they all did just such a wonderful job trying to get through to the end of this audit. There was a lot of late night calls, almost 2 or 3 nights a week. We had 7, 8 o'clock meeting calls, just trying to get through the audit. And I think they should be commended for at least being able to bring it to a close. And I think this task force will be a great start to ensuring that we can address these recommendations, figure out what we need to do, whether it's staffing, whether processes, what we can do so we don't have the same issues we had last year. And I'm looking forward to just starting this task force, reporting back to the committee as to how the progress we're making on these recommendations. But I think it's also very important that we do have the treasurer at the next meeting so we can go through their findings, because their findings had significant impacts in the delay of issuing the external audit and also for the prior period adjustment that we had to make. So I think it's
I would
important.
like to sort of echo that. I appreciate the auditor, her staff, Mr. Newsom, his staff. And it seems like the delay was from the treasurer's office. And here we are today trying to resolve this thing and move forward. And who's not here? You know, this is not going to go away. Our job is to find efficiencies, and we'll do it. It's a shame we got to do it pushing and pulling, but we will do it. So thank you, Mr. Newsom, you and your staff, and for working with the Auditor General, your staff and commission, and we will continue to pursue this thing. And
If I could also add to, I think we need to thank Mark Abel, because I think Mark Abel was a significant part of this team. And without him, I think some of the things probably wouldn't have been addressed the way they are. So thanks, Mark.
let's not go that far, but oh, seriously, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Abel. Would like to make a comment, Mr. Abel? Oh, thanks for the comment.
I would just, thank you.
Seriously, would you like to make a comment?
No, again, I think that getting through it was a team effort, and as our Auditor General had indicated, I applaud everybody for their efforts.
Cora, please
I
proceed.
don't know if Mr. Newsom wanted to have any closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Cora, Auditor General Cora. One thing I do want to say to, just put it on the record, I do want to, thank everybody that, is in my staff and also within the administration as a whole. You see by our presence here that we take this very seriously. We worked very hard to get this audit completed. We take the findings very seriously. We will take this task force's charge very seriously. We will cooperate with it. But, my team is, second to none in terms of their dedication, not just to making sure that this work is done, but also that we have, solid controls in place and verifiable financial statements, reports to federal agencies and regulatory agencies as it relates to the single audit. And we want to make sure that the books are clean. And we are, we spend a lot of hours working on making sure that that happens. So I do want to make sure that, my team and the administration is recognized for that, as you see by our presence here today. Thank you.
We appreciate you. Ms. Cora, anything else?
That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I won't keep you there if you don't. But
Oh,
thank
let's
you.
to make it better.
Thank you. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Item E, new business, there is none listed. Moving on to item F, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
The only thing that such other matters would be that we will have another meeting, and we will formally invite the Treasurer's Department to be here so we can move forward with this, so that everybody's rowing together. But yeah, and because we haven't dealt with the treasurer's item yet, we will. I would entertain a motion to pass this for the day. It's been moved by Commissioner Knezik, supported by Commissioner Dobb. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Ayes have it. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Public comments?
Is there anybody from the public who'd like to comment? Going once. Is there anybody from the public like to comment? Mary, you got anything to say? Nothing? Anybody from the public like to comment? Last time. Anybody from the public like to comment? Okay, next item, Madam Clerk.
And just for the record, no emails have been received.
Can I get a motion to adjourn? Moved by Commissioner Coleman, supported by Commissioner Dobb. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. We are adjourned.